Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for coming. When we first got into office, it seems like a long time ago, it wasn't that long ago, but this was in early 2011. One of the first things we did was try to professionalize county government, of course, and try to come up with performance benchmarks. And one of the very first areas where we did that was in the areas of court collections. Through our county staff process, we started measuring how much are we collecting and can we do better. And we formed something that we called the Delinquent tax task force, basically. And we partnered with city or county council on this, which was an important pattern to set. So it was about 2 years ago, a little bit more than 2 years ago, that Council President Connolly and Councilman Gallagher announced this kind of joint effort to look at all the ways that we collect these fees and fines and costs and make sure that, and see if we could do them better. And we very quickly determined that we weren't doing a good enough job in past years, and that wasn't fair to the taxpayers. Today we're very happy to announce that this effort has really borne fruit and that we've now recovered more than $1 million. We passed the $1 million benchmark that was owed to the Court of Common Pleas and the Court of Appeals. And I really shouldn't even say it that way. It was really owed to the taxpayers, and these were legitimate costs that hadn't been paid, and we weren't being aggressive enough in the past, and now we are, and it's saving money for the county. So in a relatively short amount of time, we've collected, I think, a very substantial amount of revenue, and that can be used for services that help the average families right here in Cuyahoga County. We're still working on it. We're still going to continue to get better. We still have fines and fees and costs that are outstanding, but we've done quite a bit of work. I want to again thank the County Council for their support and suggestions and advice on this. Councilman Gallagher in particular has experience in the court system, and he made some excellent suggestions on directions we should go to. So did Council President Connolly, who couldn't be here today. I want to recognize Councilman Miller, who's here, just again showing how broad-based the support was for this program. And Andrea, Rocco, who's our Clerk of Courts, this is just another area where she's really done an outstanding job in showing what the professionalization of these services can result in. So at this point in time, I'm going to turn it over to Councilman Gallagher for a few words. Councilman?
Thank you, Mr. Executive. This, since we've been elected, this has been one of the most passionate things that I've done as far as regaining the trust of the taxpayers. As the executive said, these are taxpayers' dollars. They were sitting there. It was Special Counsel Rocco at the time, now Clerk of Courts Rocco, who initiated how we were going to do this and the process in which we were going to follow. We now have dollars in the bank because of that, and I would really like to express my appreciation from the County Council, Council President Conley, and my fellow members to the administration, and in particular, Clerk of Courts Rocco, who will now take you through the process.
Hello, everybody. As Executive FitzGerald and Councilman Gallagher shared with you, this is a process that we started sometime in the summer of 2012. And in a very short time, Council, along with the Executive, passed legislation that allowed us to work with 3 partners in this process, the Ohio Attorney General, as well as 2 private vendors. What is most notable about this process is it does not cost the taxpayers any money at all. We basically turn over the unpaid court cost, and the Attorney General, as well as the other 2 vendors, collect the money that is owed to the general fund, and then they take a percentage from the debtor. So we are not losing any money at all. If it wasn't for Council and Executive FitzGerald, we would not have $1 million. We actually have even more than that. We hit the $1 million mark at some point in March of this year. And we did not start collecting. The Ohio Attorney General began collecting in August of 2012, and then the 2 party vendors began collecting in January of 13. So it really has been a relatively short amount of time that $1 million was collected. In addition to just going after these uncollected court costs, when I took over the Clerk of Court's office in January, we basically looked at our whole court collection process, and we tried to follow basic industry standards. So in the old way of doing it is several invoices would be sent every year, and I'm talking 9, 10, 11. Some people would get 7 invoices, other people would get 11. Now we have a very set process. As soon as we receive the journal entry and we know what we are supposed to charge, we send 3 invoices. 1 invoice every 30 days. After the 90 days, that file goes to the Attorney General or the other 2 vendors. And that process, being efficient in that way, has helped us collect. I do believe word is out as well that now the Cuyahoga County is doing something about the court costs and that you can't just let them sit. We have data that shows that every year prior to 2012, no one ever made an effort to collect against any of these court costs. And as Executive FitzGerald mentioned, this is money that goes back to the general fund. It goes back to the taxpayers. So this is just another example of what the executive has done in every office that he has held, is that he has found a way to add to the general fund without raising the people's taxes. That money then can be used by council for the kind of services that they see fit. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions?
Could you explain once the debt goes over to the AG or the third-party vendors, how do they collect the money? Is that liens or repossessing things? What do they
No,
do?
at one point there were liens placed on each of the property, on any property if the debtor held any property. But we stopped doing that because we found that it was causing some issues with foreclosures, other issues that affected the county. It wasn't the most cost-efficient way to do it. And no, there's no possession of any type of goods. It's my understanding it is done just by contacting the debtor through correspondence as well as phone calls.
Do you have a sense of, is it mostly on the civil side, on the criminal side, felony cases?
It's everywhere. So we send criminal files as well as files from the Court of Appeals and from Common Pleas General Division.
Any other questions?
So the money that's actually collected, how much of it goes to either, I assume, either the AG's office or the third-party debt collection vendors?
They collect a certain percentage on top. So the county gets back their full amount that is owed. And then the collection agency takes their percentage off the top.
Do you have any idea of what that is roughly?
I can't recall exactly what it was, but I can check that for you. It's right in here. I want to say it is 18%, and then if they have to take certain additional steps, it increases. And all 3 charge the same.
I know you addressed this in your remarks, but could you explain again, why is it that nothing had been done about this until recently?
I can't explain why nothing was done with it until the executive and council decided to move forward.
I mean, most counties never let things get to this point, I can tell you that. I think it was just there was such a volume of it where we processed the largest number of these types of cases of anywhere else in the state. But it was something that when and as Andrea had mentioned, we did this at the city level when we were working at the city of Lakewood. We looked to see are there any outstanding costs or fees. It's just something that every administration needs to do periodically. In Lakewood, we found it was with parking tickets. Everybody knew you didn't have to pay your parking ticket. You got one letter, and then basically you were home free. I feel free saying that publicly now because it's not that way anymore. Now, if you get a certain amount of time to pay up, and then you show that you mean business about it. And it's just one of those things that kind of seeps into a culture every once in a while. It had seeped into this culture. What didn't mean they didn't do anything, but as she mentioned, the word was kind of out that if you were just persistent in ignoring it, there were no consequences, and now there are. And also in terms of the folks that collect it, we intentionally, and this was with Councilman Gallagher and Council's input, and we designed a system where we're not just relying on one collection agency. There's really 3 different approaches. There's 2 private companies and there's Attorney Generals. So we can continue, the Attorney General's office, we can continue to look at that and see where do we get the best results and continue to refine this as time goes on. Thanks for coming, everybody. Appreciate it.